Hi everyone, it's Jennifer Timko from Stamping on the Fly, and I'm starting to celebrate Christmas with the Merry Tags framelits from Stampin' Up, and I created these super fun cards using the partial die cutting technique with these awesome tags. These tags come as with a set of 4 decorative tags plus all the little extras. They're from Stampin' Up. And I combined it today with the Holly Jolly Greetings set, which is from last year's catalog, but it is a standby favorite for mine for these fantastic sentiments. So I chose this tree die to start with, and I'm working with some crumb cake paper. I'm just going to place it down. I'm using my magnetic platform, as you can see, and the cutting plate underneath. I'm positioning the tag so that I have some room on top and over to the side to trim it down to the size I want after I finish doing my cuts. I'm taking the top plate, and as you can see, I'm aligning it, but not all the way covering the die. And by positioning it, I'm just going to leave a little section up here that has not been cut. And it'll make sense as I run it through my big shot here. I'm going to take it off and run it through for you. Once it is cut, I'm going to use my little roller to get all this unattached. This little thing has been a godsend for all of these intricate dies. All you do is roll it right over the die, just like this, and all those little pieces just release. It's just a time saver that I cannot even believe. So once I have that all cleared out, you can see that I am left with a piece that just has a little tiny bit of it attached. So I'm going to pull out my paper cutter and finish the trimming that way. I line up the track so that I can make a cut to where the die pretty much left off, and you can see I'm just positioning it just a little bit to get that right. And then I'm just going to carefully cut all the way up to where the die left off. And again, from the other side, doing exactly the same thing. And you can see that just pulls away, and I'm left with the tag just hanging there from its border. And now I'm going to trim this to the final settings. In this case, it's going to be 3 7/8. And I'm also going to trim the top off just a little bit. Eventually, it's going to be 1 1/8 inches. I obviously was playing around with it just a little bit to get the right measurement, but 1 1/8 inches what the border is here. Once I get this done, I'm going to pull out my stamp and stamp it with Versamark ink. Remember, this is just that clear watermark ink, Versamark ink, but it is perfect for embossing, which is what I'm going to do. Now, I'll tell you, I use my Misti a ton, but for a quick stamp like this, I still do love my Stamp-A-Majig. So using my embossing buddy, I threw down that little bit of dust so that the embossing powder would only stick to my ink, and I'm going to line up my sentiment right here and stamp my joy with the Versamark. I'm using copper embossing powder, the Stampin' Emboss powder from Stampin' Up, and this copper color is really, really pretty. It's new to this annual catalog, and I've fallen totally in love with it. So getting a good amount of the embossing powder there, and now I'm just going to pull out my heat tool and heat it up and emboss it really quickly. Isn't it pretty? I just love the color. It's a lovely copper. All right, now to continue with the shaker portion of my first card here, I took the plain tag die here and I cut with a window sheet, and I left that little front layer on just mostly so I can find it, because once I have that clear piece it wanders away from me and I can never find it in my stamp room. So I just cut that out, and that's going to be the backing piece behind, and I just put a little bit of adhesive down, and then I'm going to put this clear piece behind it so that that's going to hold all my little shaker pieces in once I get to adding my sequins. Once I have it in place, I'm going to cinch it down and I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to take my bone folder here and just go down over it to make sure that it's really secured on. I'm pulling out my foam adhesive strips. Now these are also from Stampin' Up, and they're absolutely created for shaker cards. And so I'm just going to work these little foam strips around this Christmas tree, and I sped it up just because, you know, watching me glue is kind of like watching paint dry, so I sped it up just so that you could see how I place this without it taking forever and a day. So you can see I just have it kind of hidden back there, and then I use the same adhesive strips behind the word panel here. And that keeps everything all at the same height when I cinch it down onto its layer. Now these sequins I used are actually from Pretty Pink Posh, and they are the Concord and Ninth birthday blend. But I also realized that this card would be beautiful if you used the sequins that just came in Stampin' Up's Paper Pumpkin for the month of October. So just use the sequins that make you happy. If you have them, use them. So I'm making sure I know where the placement is. I'm going to go ahead and put my sequins down on the card here. And I'm just taking a guess as to how many sequins I'm going to need in there. So I'm just going to throw a pile of them down and start taking a look at it once I have the ornament on top of it. So I move them around a little bit, and then I'm going to pull a few off, and you can see what I'm doing just to align this. Again, I sped it up just for saving you some time here. Pull all these backings off, and then we're just going to put it right down on this card base. This card base is 5 1/8 inch long by 3 7/8 inch wide. Once I have this secured down, and all of those little sequins are captured, you know I'm going to have to shake it, right? Because you got to test it. And if you have a shaker card, you can't help but shake it. I don't know what it is. I think my friend Lydia actually pointed that out recently, that if you have a shaker card, you just have to shake it. All right, and I have a standard A2 card base that I'm folding here, again with my bone folder to make a nice crisp seam there. And I attach this panel here with more dimensionals. And I'm just going to move it off to the side and pull out my fully completed example. I took a few extras of the sequins from that pack and added them on just for a little bit of extra detail. You could also do any other embellishment you want with this. As you can see, I created a second version, and I did embellish the back there. I used the Softly Falling embossing folder, and instead of making it a shaker card, instead I used some DSP. A little bit of this wonderful Night of Navy baker's twine, and I tied a little bow and attached it at the top. Pretty much exactly the same card without having to do the sequins. You can use your DSP, and you can have so much fun making fun and easy cards. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great day.